स्थावकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननी शारदा देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे त्रयेषु प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारणे। Initiation into Jnana. Initiation into Jnana. During my college days, Swami Jnanatatmananda. During my college days, I was into active armed revolution to oust the British. Once I went to Belur Math and with 4 friends and who were all much into Ramakrishna thought and later become a sannyasi of the order of Swami Akhilananda, Omkarananda, Vishwanananda and Vividishananda. After making obeisances to the Thakur in the shrine, we came down and found a fair, complexioned and slim and sannyasi sitting on a bench surrounded by a group of devotees. We did pranam and found places among the devotees and sat down and listened to the conversation. A gentleman who we late came into know, Sri Surendranath Chakravarti, Secretary of Calcutta Medical College, and his name as Hegel. Because of his argumentative nature, asked the sannyasi Maharaj just to see what has got hold on the young men of this country. They are now ready to offer. What are you doing and sitting, Maharaj? Just cotton what you. When country they are now ready to offer their attendance to heads for the motherland. And what are you all doing sitting here? You are simply feeding us with the Kichuri and the propagating name of Thakur. And is this the religion for the present day? I became interested. I became interested because I too held the same view. The reverse the Maharaj kept quiet for a while. Then he pointed at his finger the warrior-like picture of Swamiji, which was hanging above the nearby door. The picture was the picture that was taken when the Swamiji first addressed in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. Pointed to him, he said, "Just see our country had the need of political and social and leaders. Wouldn't Sri Thakur have sent him to you as one of such a leader? Instead of that, what did he do? He made him only the penniless sannyasi. When a when a loin clothes, seeing even this, or you are not realizing what the real need of our country is, or what our ideal should be." But Hegel was not present to be quainted thus. He replied, "Whatever you may say, do you think it Kamandulu that suits his line, his hand? Would not a sword hanging from the belt be the right thing for him?" Without saying anything in reply to his, Baburam Maharaj only started chanting, Hari Bol. Had this Hegel said, "That is the only report you can give. Whenever you get into fix and you can only chant Hari Bol, not praying the last chant." Attention to this. Maharaj simply sat there and said it, his face radiating divine bliss. It was this event, I think, that first planted the seed of the religion in my heart, quite unknown to myself. When I went to Kashi to recuperate my health, I met my friend later Sri Akhilananda. One day he brought me into the presence of revered Harish Maharaj Swami Turyananda, and I was charmed by his sublime appearances and sympathetic words quite unknown to me. My sleeping religion's inclination started to wake up. So far, I was of the view of that politics should be the sole concern of patriotic young man, and the religion was useful and at best only a steadying influence in public life. About religion, I was then completely ignorant, was a skeptic. It was in such a wavering state of mind that I met the reversed Hari Maharaj at Varanasi. When I first met him, his serene apprehensions and sweet disposition made my head bow before him involuntarily. After this, by the attraction of the love and this great soul before for me, I was forced to go to him practically every day. Through his supernatural divine powers, the doubt of my mind got dispelled gradually. The idea dawned in my mind, and God was not an objection of argumentation alone, but that it was indeed possible for one to attain him by uh, the right type of sadhana and bhajan and the grace of the God Guru. When we were reading for the first time, Uddaretatmanam, Uddaretatmanam, he again and again and repeated it in a deep voice with much feeling for the long time after this. Whenever I went to him, he repeated in the same vein and would say, yes, that is how you have emancipate yourself. There is a nobody other than yourself who is your emancipator. In this connection, I recall one instruction he gave me when I asked this advice: first open your eyes, then the spectacles will provide it. There is no sense in giving the spectacles first. He would again and again lay stress on self-effort. By hearing the instructions of given by the Rivarshu Maharaj, a little feeling of the renunciation had grown my mind. That is the world of without any substance was coming out of my lips, and now and then was also the subject of my thoughts. And sometimes it was at such a time that I said about boy and Maharaj, he has a great attraction for the world. What I then understood as the meaning of the word world was one's own relations and one's movable and immovable properties. It had never crossed my mind and that the word could have any wider meaning. Hearing this bold statement of the mind and reversed, Hari Maharaj simply said, right you are, but please know that one's own body too is included in one's world. Thus, a statement of his was a bolt from the blue. That is this body whose thought was always before my mind, about whose healthy Maharaj was asking me every day. That this very poem could be a source of bondage in any way I had never thought before seeing my condition. Maharaj said again, well, sir, what do you say? It is not so. At this, my head bent down and said, yes, Maharaj, please bless me that I realize this is my life. Magic of one darshan, Swami Aseshananda. I'm going to introduce. So I'm going to introduce you to holy man, and he does not speak about holiness. He lives holiness. That is what my friend Nirod Latter Swami Akhilananda said to me one day in 1917 when we were students at St. Paul's Calcutta Mission College of Calcutta, Cathedral Mission of College in Calcutta. At that time, I was enamored of the Western civilization. I did not go to Hindu college, and as I did Swami's Prabhavananda and Vivideshananda. They went to Brahmo Samachal College, St. Paul's College. I preferred. was a residential college, and I am the grateful to those fathers and who taught there, who we studied, would play together and were the free with our teachers. And even so, there was also a strict discipline. When I was at the college, initially I thought of having a career. Again, I was found that playing cricket and tennis, and then there was a football and hockey. So certainly, I had no plan of going to meet the Swami. But then Akhilananda one day proposed. I said that I was playing tennis, but at the game would not take long. So Akhilananda waited patiently for me. After match, I went to Swami Akhilananda and Balram Bose house. There I met the Swami Brahmananda, meeting such a great soul. I was drawn into life renunciation. Swami Brahmananda inspired me to lead in such a life for the sake of the realization of the God. Oh, those are beautiful days, and I will never forget when Maharaj allowed me to meditate with him and in his room and Balram's Bose and house. And there was a big hall adjacent to his where where the Ramnam was sung and which is blessed an account of Sri Ram Krishna's and presentation when they met devotees of Kolkata. Ordinarily, I could not approach Maharaj because I was not an attendant. Meditation with Maharaj was therefore possible only for those people who attended on him. That is, those who were doing the personal service. I asked Kistilal Maharaj and whom liked too much and one who was also the fond of me. If it were possible for me to meditate with Maharaj, he said, "You may come, but you have to come to very early in the morning." I do not remember exactly the time was, and sometimes I something I like in 5 or 5:30. And when I arrived, there was a Maharaj in his room and meditating. Just to see Maharaj was a privilege to rather like seeing Shiva absorbed in the divine contemplation of the God and good for the world. One became holy immediately just by seeing Maharaj, a living presence of God. Maharaj would be walking on the veranda and he would not look at Hasan Akhilananda and myself, for he was a straight another world. As well. As it were, Akhilananda was a discipline of Maharaj. All of a sudden, Maharaj would like to then exclaim, and when did he come? And Maharaj used to say that I was a chaya and shadow of Nirod, meaning I would follow the Swami Akhilananda, forgetting the darshan, being the company of the Maharaj. I naturally became a very fond of him. Eventually, I approached him. She said, "I need some instruction." And he replied, "Then, come on, come one day when I met Maharaj. I am not feeling well, and come another day." This happens a few times, and at last, Maharaj just fixed it. He told me that to come up in the early morning. I had to be 5 a.m. The occasion of this set me and the practice Satya, attentiveness, and Brahmacharya self control. Then your inner life will become stand, you will life and dedicated to the realization of the God. Attraction of divine life. Swami, Swami Dhyatmananda. Swami Dhyatmananda. When I was in school, one day my elder brother was reading the song of the Sannyasin, a poem written by Swami Vivekananda. He showed me the picture of sannyasi sitting the cross-legged and head shaven cleaning, and wearing the plain clothes. He asked me, "Do you know who is he? Do you know who is this?" And I said, "I don't know, he looks very familiar." My brother replied, "It's by the picture of Swami Vivekananda." This was my first introduction with the name. After some time, I went to an English medium and high school about 14 miles from our village. The teacher opened book and pointing at the picture asked, "Who is this?" "I don't know, but he looks very well familiar." I said it was the picture of a man standing wearing a long cloak and turban. There were a few books on the table with his. "This is a picture of Swami Vivekananda," said our teacher, and this was my second introduction to the Swami Ji. One day our teacher, one more day or one day our teacher said, unlike in common people, the ears of jnanis are below their eye level. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Paramahansa Deva, who lived at the Dakshineshwar Kali temple in North Calcutta, had such a ears. He was a worshipper of Mother Kali and his realized God. This was the first time I heard the name of the Thakur. A few days after his the British colonial government imprisoned our teacher in the Sudar bench. He was realized after about a year and a half. On his return, he informed us that his intent to build a ashram and name it as Sri Ramakrishna Sebashram. The ashram would have the daily worship Sri Ramakrishna library and serve activities. Once, when one of our four friends and contracted cholera, we kept him in the ashram and arranged for his treatment from a renowned doctor. When he renowned, the villagers praised as ashram. Some months later, when cholera epidemic and broke out of into the village, and again ashram residents were provided the personal care of, and many lives were saved. In 1921, I joined the ashram. The 4 or 5 of us were living in the ashram. Every year on the occasion of the Poshu Sankranti Mela, a fair was organized at Meher Kalibari, Chandanpur subdivision, and the Sadhana Peach of the Sarbananda Tagore and ardent Kali devotee. The occasion of the Swami Ambaranandji of Sannyasin of Ramakrishna Mission came to our ashramam, and this was the first time I met Swami of the Ramakrishna Mission. And some months later, Swami Ishananda visited our ashram and became close to him. He invited me to visit the Balur Mata. When the blessings of Swami Shivananda, then the president of Balur Mata, my teacher left under the Rishikesh to do tapasya. This is intended by my desire for the mantra diksha, and I raised some money and then finally reached Kolkata, and I halted in a relative's house where the devotee showed me the photography of Mahapurush Maharaj. The moment I saw the photo, I decided to receive the mantra diksha from him. The next day, I crossed Ganga in the ferry statement and reached the Begar Matadvasya of 1923. I went up to the shrine and fulfilled my long desire of a Thakur's darshan, and then I went to the offer my pranams to the Mahapurush Maharaj, and Maharaj looked at me and simply said that where have you come from, and no feelings, no devotion. I kept quiet. Then I met Ishanandaji and reported everything to him. He said, okay, I will speak with the Mahapurush Maharaj, and there were about 32 monastics Metati got also been there, Durga Puja. That night I slept and recording the corner of one and the next morning along with everyone else I went to go for the pranams to Mahapurush. Pranams to the Mahapurush Maharaj. Seeing, he said, "Why are you still here? You can't stay here. Go away." I said, "I have come to stay here and I don't have the money to go back." But he said, "No, you must not stay here." I told that Umesh Maharaj was, and I was feeling very sad, and he assured me that he would speak with Mahapurush Maharaj. I was allowed to stay in the Mata and service to serve the during Durga Puja on the 8th day of the Puja. Swami Sharananandaji came from the Udbodhan and office and pranams to the Divine Mother, and along with the other him one made Swami came to from Calcutta, but I found that was a Swami Vedanandaji offered me pranams to him. It was through the Met and rather three different disciplines of Sri Ram Krishna Mahapurusha to not my devotion, but his greatness, Swami Sarvajnananda. Sarvajnananda. In 1921, I was admitted a student at the Ramakrishna Mission Students Home in Madras, where I met Swami Atma Ananthananda. He became a very fond of me and he told me that many stories about Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. At that time, I knew very little about Sri Ramakrishna. In 1912, when I was a student of at our village, and I was once cleaning the headmaster's room at the school, and I found some pictures in a small box. When I asked the headmaster about them, he replied that this is Sri Ramakrishna picture, and that is Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was discipline of Sri Ramakrishna. He carried the message Hinduism to America. This was all the had precious they had about Ramakrishna and Vidyalaya. One day, Ramaswamy Iyengar of the Ramaswamy, secretary of the students, somehow asked me to take some vegetables to Swami Brahmananda, who was then staying in the Madras Math. I was just went into simple village and boy, simple village boy. He placed some long snake gods and into my stretching hands, and I took them and held them in against my chest. He instructed me to place them in Swami Brahmananda's feet and bow down to him. I carried those vegetables to Raj Maharaj Brahmananda, not so much out of the respect to him, but out of fear of the secretary. On the way to Math, and which is a mile away, I was Swami Brahmananda, Swami Shirvananda at the correct of the street. They were on their way to the student's home. At the time, there was a few cars and buses in the street, but there were many bicycles and bullock carts of the people. I did not know what to do. I was too afraid of the disregarding the Rameshwaran Iyengar instructions. So right there or on the street, I bowed, uh, touching the Raja Maharaja's feet with my head. But how was I get up? Both my arms were full with snake guts. Ah! Just then, Maharaj lifted me up. How fortunate I am. I still feel that Maharaj without my realizing it, lifting me up once and for all, and it was because his greatness and not my devotion that I was blessed by the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna. I knew devotee named Narayana Swami, who lived in 175 miles away from the Madras. He has a great desire to touch the person who had touched Sri Ramakrishna's body. Twice he failed to attempt it, but was able to touch the Swami Brahmananda on his third attempt. I later asked the Narayana Swami about his meeting with Maharaj. He said that I went inside the room and put flowers and fruits near his face, then holding his feet, and I touched them with my hands, and tears were falling from my eyes. I was overwhelmed with joy, and I felt that my desire had been fulfilled. I had touched Maharaj, who had been touched by the Sri Ramakrishna Maharaj. Sri Ramakrishna Maharaj put a hand on my head and blessed me once, and then asked me to stand up. I saw his serene face, and then the facing him, I walked backward out of the room as sign of the respect. Meeting the spiritual son of the Ramakrishna was the greatness of moment of the life. Now, friends, towards the end of my life, I feel thrilled when I recall these holy Marys of the olden days. Narayana Swami touched me, touched the feet of the Maharaj out of the devotion, while I touched them out of a fear. But I believe the rest of is the same as Sri Ramakrishna said, your tongue will burn irrespective of the whatever you have eaten, shall knowingly or unknowingly. A place in hurt. A place in hurt. Swami Satyaprakashananda. Swami Satyaprakashananda. Having been associated with the ideals and activities of the Ramakrishna order from the boyhood, I had I had long cherished desire, visited earliest opportunity to Dakshineshwar, Belur Math and such personalities as the Holy Mother Maharaj and Maharaj, the recorder of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna Ma Sri Ramakrishna Paramaham Ramakrishna. With the subject of you in February 1910, I came to Kolkata from my hometown. I had already visited to Holy Mother and Ma a day or two before. It was on the day of the Saraswati Puja, the worship of the goddess of knowledge, and that I crossed the Ganga, went to the Belur Mutton ferry boat. As I walked along the grassy lawn towards the old residential building of the monastery, I noticed that Maharaj was seated in the open terrace of facing the gate. Thus, he was the first person I saw on my first visit to the monastery. I would have to consider it was a coincidence of I not been told the latter years. Full of that latter years. Latter years of that Swami Prabhavananda and Swami Akilananda had the similar experiences of Gaur Maharaj and took the dust off his feet, and he very affectionately asked me in a sweet voice where I had come from, where I lived. I told him that I lived in very close to the house where Swami Vivekananda and stayed when he visited our hometown. After some conversation, Maharaj told me to visit the shrine and be sure that meet Swami Premananda. I went upstairs. Upstairs just to shrine, I came down into the courtyard and I was given some prasad. I went to the Ganga to wash my hands, and as I came up of the landing of steps, I saw a very venerable man of coming down. I bowed his feet and inquired him where is Swami Premananda. He pointed to himself saying here. The second time I saw the Maharaj was in the December 1911. He was seated on the large bench on the ground floor and of veranda of the monastery building and facing the Ganga. I started on another bench just in front of him. It was about the 11 o'clock in the morning. A gentleman arrived and Maharaj got up and bowed to him. I was wondering he might be. Maharaj asked me, "Do you know Maharaj?" Maharaj asked me, "Do you know him?" Yes, I saw him worshiping divine and Mother Dakshineshwar. Then Maharaj was uh, said, "You are right. He is a Rani." Then Maharaj, Sri Ramakrishna's nephew. Although I had been and closely associated with the Ramakrishna order of the grateful of ambition, sacrifice, and then सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामय, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्।